Good morning. Please be seated. On behalf of the Minnesota Supreme Court, the State Judiciary, and the Bar of Minnesota, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the candidates for admission and their families, friends, and supporters to this extraordinary session of the Minnesota Supreme Court. I'm Lori Gilday, and I have the honor of serving as Minnesota's Chief Justice. Before I make introductions, I want to let everybody know that you are welcome to take pictures during today's ceremony, but we ask that for everyone's comfort, you avoid using your flash. Now, please allow me to briefly introduce the distinguished guests and my fellow justices who join me in this happy occasion. Seated near the chamber desk, we have John Koenig, President of the State Board of Law Examiners, Emily Eschweiler, Director of the Board of Law Examiners, and representing the Minnesota State Bar Association, we have President Paul Peterson. And of course, it's a special pleasure for me to introduce to you my colleagues on the Minnesota Supreme Court. In order of seniority, we have Justice Barry Anderson. Justice Natalie Hudson is next, but she's off giving a speech. We expect her to join us later today. Next is Justice Margaret Chudich, Justice Ann McKeag, Justice Paul Thiessen, and Justice Gordon Moore. On behalf of my fellow justices, I want to congratulate all of the candidates for admission to the bar. You have come to the end of a long, difficult, and, well, let's be honest, a seemingly never-ending road to admission to the profession of law. All of us up here are so grateful that you have persevered and succeeded in your journey. And we're so proud to be able to celebrate with all of you today in this beautiful space in the People's House. It took a lot of effort from a lot of people to make this happen, and I want to thank my fellow justices, the Board of Law Examiners, and our talented staff for organizing today's ceremony. I also want to thank the Speaker of the House, Melissa Hortman, for agreeing to allow us to use the House chamber today, and we owe our thanks to the Chief Clerk of the House and his staff, and to the Sergeant-at-Arms for their help in getting us through today's ceremony. In 2018, the court returned to our practice of holding small group admission ceremonies in the Capitol. We wanted to bring these ceremonies back to the Capitol, to the People's House. Our Capitol is one of the most beautiful public spaces in the nation. All around us in this building are words about the law and works of art describing important legal principles and events. And of course, here in this chamber, members of the legislature come together to debate and write the laws for the people of Minnesota. What better, more inspiring space to hold such an important ceremony? In so many ways, this historic building conveys the great responsibility that comes with your admission to the bar, the weight and scope of opportunity that is now open to you, and the lasting, meaningful impact you will have through a career in the law. No matter where your career takes you from today, I hope that you will find ways to use this gift to give back to the community and to the people who got you here today. Whether it's through public service, expanding access to justice, helping those in need, or advocating for a cause you believe in, a career in the law gives each of us the opportunity to make a difference in society and in people's lives. As hard as you've worked to get here, never forget what an awesome gift this is. Our justice system belongs to the people, and it's our duty to ensure that it's the people who are served by our justice system. Congratulations again, candidates, families, and friends. We know this was a long road, but we on the court truly believe that you will find that the destination was worth the journey. It's now my privilege to recognize President Koenig, President of the State Board of Law Examiners.
Thank you, Chief Justice Gilday. May it please the court, I am John Koenig, President and a board member of the Minnesota State Board of Law Examiners and an attorney admitted to practice before this court. On July 26 and 27 of this year, the Board of Law Examiners held a bar examination pursuant to the rules of admission to the bar. The examination was administered to 574 examinees. 474 examinees received a passing score on the examination, a pass rate of 82.58%. Throughout the day, approximately 360 candidates will be admitted as attorneys in this state. Each has complied with the rules of admission to the bar for the state. Each has complied with the requirements of good character and fitness to practice law, and each has received a passing score on the bar examination. These candidates are prepared to be stewards of what it means to serve the public as a lawyer licensed to practice law in the great state of Minnesota. The opportunity to engage in pro bono work is one of the privileges of holding a license to practice law. Indeed, the candidates know that the Minnesota Rules of Professional Conduct provide that lawyers should aspire to render at least 50 hours of pro bono legal services each year. If candidates are interested in serving others in this way, they should reach out to the Minnesota State Bar Association or any of the many pro bono organizations that you can find online at projusticemn.org to learn how to best get involved. At this time, with leave of the court, I defer to individual sponsors of candidates who may move the admission of those candidates.
Good morning.
Good morning.
May it please the court, my name is Ashley Freskin, and this is my husband, Alex Freskin. I am licensed to practice law in the state of Minnesota, and I move for his admission to be admitted to practice law in the state of Minnesota.
Your motion is granted.
Good morning.
Good morning.
May it please the court, my name is Heidi Westby. I am a licensed Minnesota lawyer. This is my son, Sam Westby, and I respectfully move that he be admitted to practice law.
Your motion is granted.
Thank you very much.
May it please the court, I am Mona Peterson Rosso. I am licensed to practice in the state of Minnesota. This is my cousin, Delia Naim Estefanos. I move that she be admitted to practice in the state of Minnesota.
Your motion is granted.
May it please the court, I'm Sally Dahlquist. I am an attorney licensed in Minnesota. This is Callie Dahlquist, my daughter, and I move that she be admitted to the practice of law in the state of Minnesota.
Your motion is granted.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
May it please the court, my name is Stephen Conroy. I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Minnesota. This is my son-in-law, Tyler Westman Conroy, and I am proud to move that he be accepted to practice in the state of Minnesota.
Your motion is granted.
Good morning.
Good morning.
May it please the court. My name is Paul Downs. I'm a licensed attorney in the state of Minnesota. This is my son, Ryan. It's my honor to move proudly that Ryan be admitted to practice law in the great state of Minnesota.
Your motion is granted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
May it please the court. My name is Catherine McKinnon, and I am an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Minnesota. I am delighted to request the court's approval of the admission of my son, Kirk Edward McKinnon Morrow, to practice law in the state of Minnesota.
Your motion is granted. President Koenig.
May it please the court, I now move that the candidates whose names will be called by Emily Eschweiler, Director of the Minnesota Board of Law Examiners, be admitted as attorneys to practice before this court and all other courts in the state of Minnesota. I'm honored to introduce Emily Eschweiler.
Thank you, President Koenig. Candidates, as I read your names, please stand and remain standing. John Alexander Amaral, Alexander Hideyoshi Asawa, Diago Federico Benvenuto Abriaco, Jacob Christian Bergman, Andrea Susan Vanda Bokers, Lena Pauline Brockel, Jordan Michael Carew, Anna Elizabeth Conrad, Michaela Joanna Crawford, Christopher Sergey Diagulo, Madison Fernandez, Greta Lynn Gangstad, Grant Christopher Gibson, Lauren Marie Gunderson, Kendall Elaine Hayes, Erin Elizabeth Herdman, Kristen Ann Johnson, Benjamin Thomas Kaufman, Samantha Hope Keller, Eva Lynn Kendrick, Daniel Paul Kiefer, Lauren Taylor Kingsbeck, Robin Rose Lindemann, Brandon Chan Liu, Mackenzie Andrew Marin, Keats Richard McGraw, Ryan Patrick Meager, Larry Adam Mauder, Jess Thomas Pallion, Anna Elizabeth Parrish, Miles Taylor Patton, Zachary Nelson Port, Catherine Marie Quinlan, Alexander George Rafferty, Josephine Forsberg Rosen, David Joseph Todd Salmon, Kevin Andrew Sandoval, Kayla Christine Schmitz, Nicholas Jonathan Simic, Delaney Addison Steen, Kala Ann Swenson, Malin Elizabeth Pate Toy, Brooke Carol Trottier, Morgan K. Twomley, Tyler James Westman Conroy, Gregory Peter Westerhouse, and Peyton Marie Yan. Congratulations and welcome to the bar.
President Koenig, your motion to admit these candidates is granted. Congratulations. I will now administer the oath to all of the candidates for admission to the bar. I would ask you to please stand if you're not already standing. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and that of the state of Minnesota, and will conduct myself as an attorney and counselor at law in an upright and courteous manner, to the best of my learning and ability, with all good fidelity, as well to the court as to the client, and that I will use no falsehood or deceit, nor delay any person's cause for lucre or malice. So help me God. Congratulations. attorneys, you may be seated. It's now my privilege to recognize Justice G. Barry Anderson, the senior member of the court, who will give remarks on behalf of the court. Justice Anderson.
Thank you, Chief Justice, for that kind introduction. On behalf of the Minnesota Supreme Court, the State Bar Association, and all the some 26,000 licensed lawyers in Minnesota, congratulations on your admission to the profession. I have to say that 43 years ago this week, I took the same oath that you took this morning, except there was one significant difference. Our ceremony was held in a big old barn known as the St. Paul Civic Center, and it was much less impressive than this place. I do want to say that we're very grateful to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Chief Clerk of the House, and the staff for the use of these historic premises on this important day. It really makes it a very special occasion. In my remarks today, I'm going to discuss the oath you just took, what it means to make the promise that you just made to uphold the state and federal constitutions, and some ways perhaps that you can fulfill that promise. Now, what do freshly minted lawyers or lawyers long in tooth turn to when faced with a legal issue? How do we define the terms, right? And what do we use for that purpose? We use Black's Law Dictionary. Black's tells us that an oath is defined as a solemn declaration accompanied by a swearing to God that the declarant will be bound to a promise. The oath that you took today, that my colleagues took when they joined the bar, with some very minor revisions, dates back to Minnesota's early statehood in 1858 and has been recited by thousands of lawyers in Minnesota's history. But that oath is not a mere formality, a historical relic, something to say or stumble through on your way to picking up your certificate of admission. Both the Minnesota and federal constitutions make reference to oaths, and those constitutions are unique in the history of governments. Margaret Thatcher captured this well when she observed that Europe was created by history, America was created by philosophy. Put another way, we are fundamentally a country of shared beliefs. Anyone who has seen, and I suspect there may be some people here today who have participated in, an immigration ceremony, has observed soon-to-be citizens from around the world taking the citizenship oath. And those individuals will see the wisdom of Thatcher's argument. Now, to uphold our Constitution is not to engage in a Pollyannish approach that emphasizes some positive aspects of our shared history, but then ignores the tragedies and disasters that are also part of that history, including but not limited to slavery, broken treaties with our native population, and the century-long failure to redeem the promise of Reconstruction. And yet, we also have much to be grateful for. Two revolutions occurring at about the same time led to wildly dissimilar results. Historian John Steele Gordon notes that following the French Revolution of 1789, a revolution much admired by Thomas Paine and Thomas Jefferson, France has had 3 kingdoms, 2 empires, 5 republics. Today, with some duly adopted amendments, we remain the beneficiaries of the longest continuous republic operating under its original written constitution. Now, all of this is interesting. I think it's interesting. Maybe you don't. But in any event, you're wondering, what does this have to do with all who are here today? This. Lawyers are uniquely placed to uphold our constitutions. And I suggest at least 3 ways, probably there are a lot more than that, but at least 3 ways in which we do this. Now, first, your work as a practicing lawyer supports our constitutional order. Tocqueville, the French diplomat who wrote Democracy in America following his visit to the United States in 1831, marveled at the willingness of Americans to trust their disputes to courts, and in particular, American enthusiasm for the civil jury and the lawyers and judges who conducted those trials. I'm confident that your professionalism, your sense of ethics, the exercising of the fidelity that the oath speaks of to the court and client will be consistent with, if not better, than what Tocqueville observed almost 200 years ago. You know, I was thinking about Tocqueville the other day when he made those observations. One piece of his history that most people don't know is that Tocqueville's grandfather represented Louis XVI following the Revolution. His grandfather and Louis XVI were both executed. It's a very different experience in the American judicial system that Tocqueville observed. He was serious about the importance of lawyers. Now, lawyers uphold our Constitution in a second way, as a model in times of stress and when circumstances are most disagreeable. Much of the work that lawyers do involves disputes in one way or another, and often, perhaps after a trial, but even well short of formal proceedings, regrettably, delivering bad news to clients is part of the work of a lawyer. Now, many years ago, I had the privilege of representing a client along with other lawyers who represented other clients in a complex piece of litigation that didn't turn out quite the way we had in mind. And as a consequence, I had the opportunity, I could have done without the opportunity, frankly, but I had the opportunity to watch a senior member of our team deliver the bad news to the client and to talk about what had happened. That was an interesting conversation. There were no histrionics, no arm waving, no personal attacks on the other parties, lawyers or the judge. A balanced explanation was what followed of why the district court decided the way it did. Didn't like the result, wish it had been otherwise, but here's what happened. Handling that responsibility also upholds the rule of law in our constitutional system. Finally, Minnesota has a long commitment to improving access to justice. The first full-time legal aid lawyer in Minnesota was John Benson, later of Faegre and Benson. The firm's been renamed again. I can't keep up with all the change in firm names. But nonetheless, Mr. Benson observed in 1913 in a report that he submitted about the work that the Legal Aid Society was doing, as it was then known, justice is not the birthright of the well-to-do alone. That was true in 1913 when he wrote it, and it is true today. When you represent a client with an unpopular cause, or handle a matter without a fee or on a reduced fee basis, or you volunteer in a district court clinic, or in our state library's appellate practice clinic, you uphold your constitutional order. How does this work in real life? One quick war story, as you might say. I'm a son of Mankato, grew up there, and I had occasion to attend a Rotary meeting there, perhaps 10 years or so ago, and ran into a lawyer by the name of Kelly Gage. Kelly Gage was former president of the Minnesota State Bar Association, held the office that Paul Peterson holds today. I visited with him about one thing or another, and I said, well, tell me, Mr. Gage, what are you doing these days? And he said, you know, I'm retired, and so one of the things I do is I do case intake for Southern Minnesota Regional Legal Service as a volunteer. Kelly was 92 at the time. We could all hope to be doing so well at age 92, but it is an example of fulfilling your duties as a lawyer. Americans have argued about our Constitution, legislative and executive actions that affect the constitutional order, and judicial decisions that interpret the Constitution. Those arguments go back all the way to the very beginning, and they will continue going forward. And I'm confident that those of you who are assembled here today will make valuable contributions to those discussions. But we should not lose sight of what we have been given in our constitutional order. I'll close with the words of Frederick Douglass. I'm sure he's known to you, American philosopher, escaped slave, who gave a speech in Rochester, New York. What to the slave is the 4th of July, delivered on July 5, 1852. Douglass used that speech to excoriate various American institutions and leaders on the issue of slavery, but he devoted the last part of his address to defending the Constitution, a position that he would take in greater detail in a speech that he would deliver to the Scottish Anti-Slavery Society in 1860. But in that 1852 speech, he reminded those who were listening to him that the Constitution was a glorious liberty document. I'm confident that those of you who are here today are going to go forward and uphold the constitutional order as you have promised to do, and I am looking forward to seeing what you accomplish. I'm sure great things are ahead for all of you. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today, and best of luck.
Thank you, Justice Anderson. It's now my privilege to recognize Minnesota State Bar Association President Paul Peterson.
And may it please the court. Welcome, welcome, colleagues. On behalf of Minnesota State Bar Association, congratulations and welcome to your next step in the profession and the Minnesota legal community. In Minnesota, membership in our Bar Association is not mandatory. It is a voluntary association, and we are proud of our volunteer membership. That now includes you, all you new lawyers, we provide a complimentary membership for your first year. And we will be talking to you about continuing membership after that. We are so proud of our people that they advocate, develop the laws of Minnesota. They serve the needs of the underrepresented, and to creating a welcoming, collegial, inclusive community of professionals, and to support the justice system and an independent judiciary. The MSBA is proud to be the voice of our profession, and we are an important partner, and we are very proud to be an important partner in our independent branch of government. We are here to help you on your professional journey, so please take advantage of all the resources and all the connections that can be made with your fellow professionals through the MSBA. So please see what we can do for you. Though today is not about that, there'll be time for that. Today is about you, and today is the day to celebrate your accomplishment. Enjoy your day. Congratulations.
Thank you, President Peterson. And now to our new lawyers. Please know that as lawyers, you have been empowered to help people resolve disputes that too often have overtaken them and overwhelmed them. The admonition of lawyer and President Abraham Lincoln more than 150 years ago remains relevant today. President Lincoln said, "Discourage litigation. Persuade your neighbors to compromise whenever you can. As a peacemaker, a lawyer has a superior opportunity of being a good person." I think President Lincoln got that right. Consider that we may do our clients and the public the greatest good by cooling passions rather than exacerbating them, and by exhausting every other avenue through negotiation, conciliation, and compromise, before plunging into acrimonious, protracted, expensive, and often futile litigation. It is with that simple encouragement, the encouragement for you to be peacemakers, that we send you on your way today to celebrate your accomplishment. This is the happiest of all judicial responsibilities. The court is proud of the caliber of our bar in Minnesota. In becoming a member of the profession, you inherit a legacy of scholarship and integrity entrusted to you to protect and pass on intact to succeeding generations. That concludes the formal part of our ceremony. Just one more piece of advice. We have this thing in Minnesota called the Long Minnesota Goodbye. We want to ask you not to engage in that today, and we want to ask you, if you could, to just please exit the chamber as quickly and safely as you're able, and then go to your left. All of the newly admitted lawyers should proceed to the North Corridor on the first floor to claim your certificates of admission and to sign the attorney roll book. The roll book was a tradition in Minnesota from our state's founding, from 1858 all the way to 1983, and then for some unexplained reason we stopped it. We're proud to have reinstituted the book, and the roll of attorney's book from 1858 to 1970 is on display. On your way out, you're welcome to take pictures throughout the Capitol, and please do stop by the beautiful historic Supreme Court courtroom and take pictures there as well. Congratulations, we are in recess.